Hi, everyone. I have a group of some awesome projectors here to help you understand human design a little more or what it means to be a projector in real life. I love learning about this stuff, so I hope this helps you as well. I hope this conversation helps you. And we'll get into what's it called? Introducing. I lost the word for a second. Introducing ourselves. I'll go first. If you listen to any other episodes now, you know that I'm Jazz, the host of the Ultimate Human Design Summit. I'm a 3-5 emotional generator and a right angle cross of planning. So I feel like I'm really living out my purpose with this summit stuff and getting the community together. I really love it. And I'm a mom of 3. I have a projector, manifestor, and manifesting generator. So yeah, I got all the types. So I just did the manifestor panel. And at the end, I asked, like, how can I raise my manifestor? So I'll probably be asking some tips and tricks of how to raise my projector without, all the conditioning of my generator self. So we'll get into that. I'm just going to call whoever out that's on my screen to introduce themselves. Tammy, you're first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy Mack. I am a 6'2" splenic projector, left angle cross of the alpha. My design is completely open. I just have one channel, so I really resonate with the reflectors as well. I'm a quantum human design specialist, a quantum alignment practitioner, and I also work in mental health and addictions at the hospital, which as a projector, as an Aquarius, I love studying human behavior. And it has been such an honor and such a learning experience to be in that space, as well as the space of the emerging soulpreneur who I love to guide, and the subtle nuances between everybody, where we are and where we're going.
Awesome. Moni, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Moni. I am a 3-5 ego projector, right angle cross of the vessel of love. Similarly to Tam, I just have the one channel, the 2551, so it's real exciting. I am an energy worker, a massage therapist, and then I have my own human design show called Awaken Your Human Design, and you can find us on YouTube for nice videos and good times.
Yes. Awesome. And Laura.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura. I'm a 2-4 splenic projector and right angle cross of service. I've got 2 channels, which is the channel of judgment and acceptance. So I really do enjoy helping people improve generally in life. I'm all about personal development. So my chart is an energy projector, and actually one of the things that I enjoy helping people with in my business specifically is using human design for those neurodivergents, specifically people who have ADHD. As I do, I got a diagnosis last year, and I have found that using human design to help on the unmasking journey has been super powerful for me. So that's my area of expertise, if you like.
Oh, wonderful. Laura, are you on Threads?
I
feel
am,
like-
yeah.
Hey, I think I've like replied to some of your stuff on Instagram Threads. I'm like, oh wait, I recognize this name. It's so nice to put a face to, Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Lindsay, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. I'm Lindsay Shannon. I'm a 5-1 splenic projector. I don't study human design and its intricacies, so I don't really know all of my ins and outs, besides just the general like projector themes and my lines. But I do know that my one line likes to research. I like to have a lot of knowledge on different subjects. I'm a Reiki energy healer, psychic medium. So I really enjoy leading people to sort of opening up to their own path and kind of providing guidance that way.
I love that. Thank you. And I think having everyone here, whether you're like, the ins and outs of human design or not, I think it's going to be a really fun conversation because this is all about human design in real life. So let's jump into some questions. We'll start with the deconditioning journey. What has been the most significant part of your deconditioning journey around rest and releasing the need to keep up with?
Like in the most simple way, it's just learning to be horizontal because everyone's like, projectors have to rest, they have to rest. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean rest? Like, we've been running around like chickens with our head chopped off our whole lives, trying to keep up and failing miserably. Now you want me to rest or to like nap? And I'm like, it just like it drove me mad that it was just like too generic. And when I just figured out if you just lay down, it's like an energetic oil change to like discharge all that sacral buzz that we pick up. And that's just like the simplest thing. It's just like be horizontal in between doing stuff and you can feel it drain out and then you can get up and like buzz on everyone's energy again and then lay down and like discharge that out. And I find if I just yo-yo, that's like the biggest thing. It's like the simplest, biggest thing ever is just like just be horizontal for a little bit.
Ooh, I like that. That's very practical.
5'1" or 3'5", so I'm very,
Three.
like, practical minded.
Yes, I hear that.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I couldn't agree more. That's one of my little strategies for the recharge. When I found out I was a projector, I really understood the guiding aspect, that intuitive, like helping service support people that really resonated with me. But I like to be super honest with people. I still feel, I mean, I'm 2.5 years into my experiment, which is reasonably early for some on this call and certainly plenty of people out there in the world. And it's something I really struggle with. So if there are people listening who found out they're a projector, whether you've just found out or whether you're 5, 6, 7 years down the line, I'm sure all of us, on this panel still have times where we catch ourselves and go, oh, today was a day where I didn't really do, listen. Because it's so easy to get caught up in other people's energy. And as somebody with ADHD as well, it's like a double layered journey for me personally. So what I found with, the hardest part is paying attention, pure and simple. The hardest part is actually tuning into when your body goes, hey, think I'm ready for that rest now. Think I'd like to be horizontal. I'm going, okay, I'm going to give it to you. Because once you actually start to do that, and it's just that little repetitive act of self care ultimately, like that's the beginning of something quite special, I think.
Yeah, so tuning in, paying attention to you
Exactly
and
that.
what your needs are. Yeah. Tammy, go
That-
ahead.
that-
Yeah. Thank you.
I want to jump on that a little bit because I have I'm unique in the way of when I first found out that I was a projector, a 6'2" spline projector, I went all in on the laying down and the not doing anything. But I have a defined will center. I am a Capricorn rising. I have all my arrows to the left. I did not do well. In fact, I sunk into depression. And so for me, it's as Laura was saying, you have to listen to your energy. My energy loves to move. Like I love to move. But as much as I love to move, I love to run long distance. I love to CrossFit. And I left all of that when I first found out I was a projector because I'm like, oh, this is why I'm so burnt out is because I'm doing all of these things. But those things actually brought me bliss. Those things actually brought me joy. And so for me, it's finding the balance. It's listening to my body. When do I go into my restorative practices? When do I go, as I say, balls to the wall, right? Because that truly feeds my sacral. It really, really does. Because as non-energetic beings, as projectors, we say that we don't have a lot of life force energy. But I kind of call bull on that because if we learn how to work with divine timing, if we learn how to channel universal energy, if we start listening to our own body and our own needs, we start to understand that we truly are individual in the way that our energy works. And so for me, it's finding the balance of when my body wants to move and when my body needs rest.
Mm, thank you for that, Tammy. Lindsay, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think once you find what works for you, you're going to feel more energized than depleted. But I will say, when I found out, I think it was such a relief because I'm also a Cap rising. So I think, striving towards goals is like something that comes naturally. And so, like, I was pushing myself. And career, physical activity, all the things that I think society, maybe it like intentionally or unintentionally, puts pressure on us about or around. And I think when I found out I was a projector, I was like, oh, this makes more sense. Like I can chill now. Like I've always known, I think my energy is pretty finite, especially when I'm doing things that are not, I guess, lighting me up or are truly intriguing to me. So to me, it was a relief. I do have finite energy and I like resting and relaxing. I've always known that. And I think it was more of like a permission slip almost, or like a validation, to do those things and not necessarily do them because I feel guilty or feel like I have to, but like I need to enjoy this rest as much as I'm enjoying what I'm actually doing.
Yes. Yeah. Do you find that it's hard to, when you're in rest? Like I said, I was talking to the manifestors and it was like, what does it mean to actually like rest when everyone else is saying, like, be more productive, go and do this? Like, are you able to drown out that, I guess, societal conditioning when you are resting? Or like Moni said, when you're horizontal, are you able to like tune out that voice?
I am personally,
Yeah.
yes. But I think maybe that's just a symptom of burnout after so many years, like it's it's something that I want to take advantage of now. I want to make sure that I'm making enough time for rest just as much as I'm making time for anything else. So I know others, I've heard others, especially like friends that are different makeups or human design types, talk about not being able to slow down. I truthfully just cannot relate.
I love that. You've accepted it. You're just like, no, this is just part of how I have to operate in the world.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Oh, I love
There's
it.
I've
there's also
found different. Oh, sorry. I found different ways for me to honor my design. For instance, I do a lot of coaching calls in bed, right? If people like my mentor Karen, she knows that I'm going to show up to a session in my bed, like in my projector office, as I call it. And that's just who I am. And I no longer feel like I need to explain why I don't feel. And so there's a sense of belonging, right? Like people have no idea about, you know, energy or human design or anything like that, and they see you coaching from bed or spending quite a bit of time in bed, they may judge you. But when you're in the right environment or with the right people, you don't need to explain that. You don't need to validate yourself. And I love that I feel like I'm in a place where I no longer have to do that. And I created a business in life where, like I said, I work in mental health. So I might work 2 shifts a week, but then the rest of the week I get to chill. I get to just be, which I absolutely love.
Ooh, I love that. Moni, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say there's also part of being like a projector is like we're here to recognize and be recognized. And there's also recognizing like what is the correct work for us, right? Especially like defined will, like Tammy, you just said, you're like, I gotta define will, I gotta do some stuff. And I feel you because there's certain things where it's like my will is driven that I'm gonna be the one that does that. And I think just the longer you play in your experiment, because again, it's like it is an experiment and it is to play on and off and see what happens when you do work you're supposed to do and you do the work you're not supposed to do. See what it feels like when you jump in on the generators building the big thing. And then you're just like, I hate this and I'm miserable, but I have to be part of it. And like once you recognize, like, no, no, no. The generators are here to do what the generators are here to do. And I'm here to do really specific, crazy, ego projector work and learning what that is. Because if we waste our energy trying to do the generator stuff, we're gonna miss the opportunities that are there for us as projectors because we're gonna be too tired and we've like wasted our energy on the thing we're not supposed to do. And then we don't get to do the thing that we're really meant to do. So I find it's like there's a temptation aspect. It's very easy to like fall into like the generator, like swirly tornado absorbing energy and like all that like life force. And if you can recognize that's not the really good thing. That's like a really mediocre thing I could jump in on. And if you wait a bit or if you go rest or take care of yourself, whatever that is for you, the better opportunity will inevitably come along that you would have missed if you wasted it on the not as good stuff.
Yes.
Mm. Yeah. I have a really good example, like real world example that I can think of along those lines. So I historically and still now part time work as like a sales professional in the veterinary sphere. And for years, my job, which is just unbelievably draining to me, has been, driving around the country, both here and in the UK, in New Zealand here and in the UK, visiting practices, doing what a sales rep does, like talking to people about product. However, here in New Zealand, I have, like a two-tiered role. And secondary to that is to be key account manager. And it's really about less work, more strategy, because there can be, bigger payoffs, but with a lot less meetings because we're talking bigger people. And so just as you were talking about me, I was like, that's such a good example, because even though, yes, I'm transitioning away from that, and I have my own business in this sphere of sort of human design and coaching, in that more traditionally corporate job, the stuff that drains my projector energy is the busy work that I call running around speaking to lots of people day in, day out. But the strategy, the systems, the how can I be super efficient, which I think projectors are amazing at being efficient, right? We're not lazy. We're like, I can do that in, a hundredth of the time. That stuff I like, and I do find it quite giving to me in terms of energy. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that.
Oh, I love that. I have a business partner who's a projector, and that busy work as a generator, she'll be like, "Okay, and maybe we should do this," and she'll have this whole outline, and then I'll just, like, get right into all the little stuff. She's like, "I'm so glad you are how you are." I always said I want a projector to manage my life. I can go and do, like, the 4 motors and just, like, go, go, go. I can go and do whatever. Just, like, tell me what to do. Give me the
Yeah.
tasks, and I'll do it. But, yeah, projectors, what do they say? It's like work or Tammy, you always say this, "Work smarter, not harder."
Yeah.
Work smarter, not harder. And as Laura said, yeah, working with a projector is like working with a energy efficient light bulb.
Such a good
Yeah.
Love
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna jump into my next question. What does recognition feel like to you guys? Anyone or everyone?
It's like
I can oh, wow, you and I.
I have a completely open throat, so I just like jump in too soon.
I do as well. Recognition feel, to be seen and to be heard. I'm going to share an example. One day I was laying on the couch. I just finished working 312s. I was absolutely exhausted, and I was a little bit on the bitter end of life at the time. And I was just like thinking, oh, nothing's working out. All I do is work, and I'm just spinning my wheels. And then I get an email from Michelle who's like, "Hey, I want you to come speak at the summit, right? At the conference, the Human Design Conference." And it was like, I felt in that moment, I felt so seen for who I was versus the last 3 days of hard work that I did in mental health. And it was that feeling of, oh my goodness, like I'm seen for who I am, not for what I do. And so I'm a 6'2", so I do a lot of hermiting at times, and I always feel that when I'm being called out, people hop into my DMs, people hop into my social media, "Hey, how are you?" Or send me a reel, or, all these little things that reminds me, okay, I've hermited enough, and I'm being called out, right? As a projector, it's that invitation. With Jazz, she did a summit last year which was so wildly successful. And I'm still deconditioning the will center there. I'm still deconditioning the hold my beer, I can do this better. And I find that I'm still learning, but these experiences of when I get invited into something rather than creating it from myself, things work out so much better. And this is something that I'm really learning, as I don't have to create it. I just have to hold a space that there's a potential that I'm going to be called out for this.
Yes, that waiting period.
Yeah. And like the waiting as well can really pay off. Like in terms of what recognition feels like, it's for me. I was trying to think of the word specifically, but it's a sense of pride for me, like real pride, but not conceited pride. There's no ego attached to it. It's not like, oh yeah, go me. It's just this deep, deep, deep sense of appreciation, because I think certainly before discovering human design, but I think I can speak for most projectors when we say we've spent a lot of life feeling undervalued and unseen. that's, the journey that we go on with often offering unsolicited advice to people and then being on the end of, oh, well, it didn't get listened to, or, it does make you feel unseen. So when you finally get that invitation and the recognition that comes along with it, it really is something quite special. And if you wait for the right invitations, I have found in several situations that there's almost a divine intervention as to why that was as well. There've been a couple of times that have, in my life, where if I hadn't have received a specific invitation for myself and I jumped into something else sooner, things could have worked out quite differently.
Mm.
Yeah.
A lot of trust. Sounds like, yeah, Moni, you wanted to hop
Oh
in?
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, with the what does good, like, recognition feel like, and it's like my boyfriend playing the how to ask questions with each other game, because like he's a manifesting generator, like he's a magic 8 ball. Ask him a simple yes no question, you got your answer, and him like really wanting to like, how do you do that with a projector? It's not so simple as the sacral question. So it's like there's like different ways I have found. There's the like, what do you like? How do you feel about something, right? And just like let a projector blah blah it out. And then there's times where it's like he wants to do something with me or watch a movie, and he's like, "Oh, like, do you want to watch like the 1978 Batman?" He's like, how do you feel about that?" I'm like, I don't care at all. Like, my will is decidedly nothing, right? It's like with the sacral, you got a yes, you got a no, or an ask again later. With my will, well, it's like if it's not like a hell yes or a hell no, there's like a decided eh. He's like, "How the hell do I ask you this?" I was like, "Well, make it an invitation, make it really nice, like make it a special time." And he like went away for a little bit and came upstairs and like presented me this delightful invitation. He's gonna make me get like hot cocoa and rub my feet into this whole nice thing to like watch this movie where I'm like, invite me into that experience you want to share with me and make it really good. So it's like learning how to talk to the projector, because people ask us these yes no questions. I'm like, I'm just gonna mimic what your sacral wants, or I'm just like, eh. And then I go along with it because I feel bad because you want me to do a thing. I'm like, this sucks. Like, so like learning how to play with how to ask your person questions, and like if the projector doesn't care, like make it a really good juicy invitation for us because you want to like hang out with us and share something with us. Like that feels like this bubbly, sparkly recognition, you know?
Oh, I love that. Actually, I have a projector daughter. She's 5, and she loves just going grocery shopping with just mom, like just her. And I have to be like, "Do you want to go to Costco and we're going to go get samples together and we're going to," and she's just like, "Oh my God, yeah. And then we'll go to A&W and have like lunch together." I'm like, my Taurus moon and rising is like just snacks. I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's just go have some snacks all day, girl." But like,
Especially that
just,
one on one.
yeah, and I can see her light up. Like, she's like, and then if my son, manifesting generator's like, "I wanna go with you guys," she's just like, "No, just me." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." Lindsay, do you have anything to share?
It's so cute. Yeah, I think what came to mind for me was, I think a little to Tammy's point, there's different types of recognition that I've kind of identified. And so, like, when you create something for yourself, right? Like, I kind of have this unique experience, or maybe not so unique, but I've kind of grown up in this family culture, what have you, of go, 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 provide for yourself, like, get a good job, grind. And then like have kind of recently come into this sort of like witchy healer sort of realm, right? And I think it's interesting because I get to look at, the recognition that I get for, the career that I've built, something that I've created is different. Like it feels different than the recognition that I'm getting when people come to me to, like for a healing session or something, when I like bring up something meaningful in the validation that they provide. So, and it's not to say that one's better than the other, but I do find that I think how Laura was explaining, like the deep felt appreciation really comes from the recognition when people go out of their way to say like, "Hey, this reminds me of you," or "I think you did a good job," or, "You really helped me with this," versus like the job at what you've been trying so hard to do, like on your own, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's all good. It all feels good, but I think it just feels different when it's something that comes more naturally, or the invitation's been opened up versus something that you've created for yourself as a projector anyway. It feels different.
Yeah. Yeah, go
Feels
ahead,
like
Tammy. Oh,
I just wanted to, there was something I wanted to, the word that kept coming up to me was the word valued. Like, I feel valued for who I am, right? Versus like, and that's one thing that projectors really struggle with is self-worth and self-value. Like, because as you know, we're so conditioned to be valued or have our self-worth tied to, say, our net worth or what we provide or what we produce, right? And so when we're valued for who we are, we get a sense of confirmation. And I think that's what recognition feels like is confirmation. Like when we do the work, we start valuing ourselves a little bit more and we start feeling, that confirmation of as I start valuing myself more, other people value me as well.
It's also certainly my understanding, and I deeply feel this. I think what Lindsay was essentially explaining is it's what do we actually want to be valued for as projectors? Because we can be valued, every human, regardless of human design, can be valued for different things. But I don't care anywhere near as much if I get a pat on the head because I did a good job as a sales rep versus a coaching client who you know, is just like, "Oh my god, I had this big light bulb moment and thank you," and appreciates me there. Is that kind of what you were saying, Lindsay? Like,
yes.
I want to be valued for who I am as a coach and a guide, not that corporate person who I'm leaving behind. To me, not interested. And so it's
Yeah.
what we want to be valued for, and we choose that and follow it full steam ahead.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, I have a corporate side too. I work in accounting and, like you said earlier, like efficiency is our thing. So like I'm really good at it, applying that principle to procedures and all kinds of things, saving money. So I know I bring value in that way, but yeah, it's just not as meaningful as when you provide somebody with insight or some sort of, revelation, that kind of thing, when you want to be valued as a healer.
Mhm.
That's so awesome. I love hearing all these. Okay, let's go to the next question if everyone's okay with that. What limiting beliefs did you encounter during your deconditioning journey and how did you overcome them?
Oh, there's so many, aren't there? It's so
Throw some out. Let's
that's
hear them.
me. And I don't think this is unique. Like I said, one of the reasons, again, with an ADHD diagnosis, like that brings with it a whole basket of limiting beliefs. Anyway, there's a lot. I don't think there's a human on this planet who hasn't been exposed to some sort of trauma, be it capital T or little t, and therefore we all carry limiting beliefs. But one of those, which is, I think, deeply affects all projectors, and then had this other layer for me was the fact that I'm lazy, that my value is dependent on how much I do. You know, it always has been. So again, tuning in, but I have the Open Identity Center, right? Open G Center, and I've spent a lot of time going, I don't have direction. Who am I supposed to be? And like actually a whole part of my journey and what I help others with is the big existential, but who am I? Who am I? And it's been a beautiful journey, but it's taken me so many years, both before and, since discovering human design to realize like, hey, I can be whoever I want to be any day of the week from hour to hour. And being this social chameleon is a beautiful thing. It wasn't a beautiful thing when I was sort of in my late teens, bouncing around, trying to be liked by everyone and anyone and, you know, mixing with the wrong people. But now in my power, knowing what I bring and who my people are, being able, especially as a line four, right, to network and to be in community with different sets of people with different expertise is a really beautiful thing. So not needing to box myself in, I think would be really one. Not needing to prove myself, which kind of goes hand in hand with what I said about value, but I have an open will center and I have spent a lot of my time. And again, I think this relates to the the ADHD truly where we have been conditioned. We've all grown up, anyone with ADHD, thinking like we're not good enough. We don't live up to that potential. And so a large part of the journey I've been on really recently is having value in who I am. My potential is infinite, and I'm living it now. It's not this whole, I have to prove myself. Like, just being me is proof enough. So those have been some really, really big ones. And it's work. It's all work, right? There were so many, I'm sure some of us on this call help people with this, but doing the shadow work, using things like EFT tapping, therapy's always great, guys. Well, like, it's often necessary. It's often necessary. So yeah, and there are more, but I'll hand it over to someone else.
Thank you, Laura. Tammy, did you want to go?
Well, Laura, I resonate with your story so well because I found out when I was taking, like, after high school, I went to business school and I wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to be a management accountant. And that's where I found out I was dyslexic. And so I thought that I was stupid. And so I gave up on my dream of being an entrepreneur and I went into service work for many, many years. I went into pink collar, where I have to say we're paid very, very little for the amount of work that we lovingly do, that we care. And it really beat my sense of self-worth. That, I was dyslexic and stupid and my words and my numbers were all jumbled up. And so I couldn't be an accountant or accountable for who I am, which I kind of realized. And being a pink collar worker, and yourself and so conditioned that our self-worth is connected to our net worth, and not being able to pay my bills just sunk me into lower and lower depression. And so it wasn't until I found human design and started seeing my dyslexia as a gift, started renegotiating my self-value. It wasn't anything that I did. It wasn't that I made more money or anything like that, but I just allowed and truly trusted and started working on my own self-worth, releasing the connection to money, releasing the connection to what I have to do. And the universe provided me. I'm so excited to say, debt-free. Yes. And making more money, doing a lot less. And it really, truly was an internal process of valuing myself more, seeing my quote unquote disabilities as actual gifts. And this is why I'm always like the internal work as a projector. I mean, as everybody, but as a projector, we all have our own stories of self-worth and self-value, and how it is that we on the inner plane get to transform that and see that as our gift.
Thank you for sharing that, Tammy. Anyone else want to go? I have a question swirling around in my head.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, guys. With the self-worth and the self-value and hearing about that, what, in your experience, like what contributes to having or experiencing lower self-worth? Like, is it just how people have treated you? Is it like early caregiving? I'm kind of asking this because I have a projector daughter and I want to help her. Yeah. Moni, did you want to go?
Yeah, I think like the first big thing is like defined will or undefined will, because like those are completely different like worlds, It's like the undefined will that is constantly amplifying the defined wills of the world and thinking it has to do something to prove something. And it's like, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get I did it. I proved myself. Like, I know so many open will people that are like so accomplished. And like, I've done this. It means nothing, because it's always going to get swept in with some other defined will energy. So it's like, for undefined will, it's like, stop trying to prove yourself. Like, do something because you're into it. But if you're trying to prove it, you're never going to get that like, check, yay, I did it. And then with the defined will, it's like, are we actually being valued for like what we can really offer and our real worth, or this expectation of what you want to project on us and our defined will? Like that's a whole different thing. Because with the defined will, it's like, we need to be praised for what we're doing. Like, we can like storm the castle and rally and make the thing happen, but like pat us on the head. And so like when the undefined will people can like work with us in that way, as opposed to feeling like, oh, they can't do something and they need to prove it. And they're like, no, you undefined will people, you got a defined will person, pat us on the head and cheer us on. And like, we can help with those things, but without this level of expectation. So it's like, you really got to tune in of like defined will, undefined will, where the defined wills really have to be praised for what they can do. And the undefined wills really want to be praised for what they're not supposed to be doing.
Right. Okay. It's funny. My daughter, so she has, well, my manifester, who's going to be 4 months old, is the next ego. Like she has a defined ego or defined will. So I'm not the only one, but it's funny with my projector daughter. She'll always say, I want to be first. I'm better. I can do that better. And I'm like, oh my God, is she amplifying my defined ego so hard? Like, she's like, I
Yep.
want to go first. I want to be the best. I'm like, where did you learn this? And why are you saying this? I'm like, I don't think I present myself like I'm a third line. I'm like, try, fail. It's all good. Like, she's a 6'3", so I'm trying to instill that into her as well with the third line. But it's so funny that she's always like, I can do that better, or I'm the best. I'm like, oh God.
Starts young.
Yeah, the conditioning. Oh no. But yeah, thank you for that. That's such an interesting thing to reflect on. Tammy, you wanted to say something? I think you messaged it.
Oh no, she's
Oh,
going
it was
separate.
just, yeah, I just said, it was 2 years ago. I was really struggling with my will center. 2 years ago, I was really struggling with it. And the one thing that I had to have a conversation with, because I'm very spiritual, was who am I working through? Is it my will or thy will? And really having that conversation. Am I trying to make the little me happy, or am I really serving the bigger me? And really having those conversations.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard you say that before, and that really, I was like, oh, that's such a good one. Yes.
Is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. With more generally as well, just for I'm just thinking some of the listeners, especially those with children, if they're new to human design, they might not know initially whether, their child has a defined will or not. And especially like if they're talking to their friends, because I think this conversation around self-worth is a really, really important one. It's been a huge part, like we said before, a huge part of a projector's journey. It's been a huge journey for me. When I look back, often in business, and some of us will have heard this, we talk about look for the red thread, right? Look for this experience which has tied your past, your journey together because, that's your thing. And for me, that has been self-worth. And you mentioned just at the beginning, Jess, about early childhood experiences. Like, no, very few people have this, blissful, perfect childhood. Mine certainly wasn't. And I've come to realize that my caregivers did the best with what they had, but ultimately hurt people, right? And it, you come into this world as a projector with, I think the term old soul would resonate with quite a lot. And having since discovering human design, I've spoken to my mum, actually not in human design terms, but I've asked her a lot about who I was as that young. And I'm talking like 4 or 5 year old, right? And she was like, you knew, you thought you knew so much, or you knew so much of your time. We were always having to tell you this. You were trying to teach the teacher or say that she had it wrong. And I'm like, no, that was probably actually just me being a projector and being super intuitive and insightful and seeing a better way. And I think now I don't have children, so I can't speak to this. And it would be really interesting to hear your perspective. But I can understand there being a difficulty when you have somebody so young coming out with really often, quite credible wisdom. But then there you are, 20, 30 years their senior being like, no, 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 you can't speak to adults like that. And so for me, if we're having the parent-child conversation, is actually not making them feel small because they're younger and telling, I suppose, what am I trying to say? Imposing your limits about what capabilities a child has in their knowledge, their wisdom, their insight, it would be really, really helpful. And reckon that there's a real difference as well. I think a lot of parents get into the habit where they reward for what a child does as opposed to who they are. And that's a very different thing. And that would apply to any parenting, right? If we can stick to the qualities of the personality as opposed to well done for coming back from school with an A grade, that's a huge thing in the self-worth piece from a really young age, I think.
I love all of that you're saying. I feel like my projector daughter, again, she's 5, and when she says things, I'm like, "You're probably right. Honestly, you're probably right. What do I know?" And when I teach her, she loves, like, workbooks, and I'm always like, "Okay, we'll do a 10-minute lesson on, like, reading." And she's like, "Give me more." I don't know, she just loves learning. But the funny thing is that she always switches it, so I'll teach her, and then I'll let her teach me, and she'll do it in a different way, and in a more efficient way, actually. And so she'll be like, "Okay, mom, I'm gonna make a worksheet for you, and you have to find this letter to finish this word." Like, now you're teaching me. But I know that that's how she'll learn best, so I let it happen anyway. And, like, seeing her wisdom is so cool, really, and it's true. Like, being 5 years old, usually parents would like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "Let me hear more of what you have to say, or what can I improve on around here in this household so that you feel more loved, that you feel more cared for?" Tammy, you said something in the chat there. Oh,
It's
children are
interesting. Yeah, generational wise, right? Like I love cycles. I love learning the different generations and the ways that we thought. And, I'm 47. I come from a place of children are meant to be seen and not heard, right? We were meant to line up and be pretty at Christmas Day, but other than that, go play and we don't really want much to do with our children. And children were not, and then we look at people in the last, say 30 years having children and children all their life. Like everything is revolved around their children versus we were a byproduct, we were an afterthought, we were like even 50 years ago, you had children to help your farm or to help your homestead or to help, grow in. And so the evolution of the way that we look at children or the way that we raise children or the way that we value children has changed so much. And children are now being seen as a gift. And what a beautiful way that learning about human design, we get to help grow our children in such a conscious way. My best friend, she's got a few kids, and she asked me to do a reading on her son the other day because she's like, he's so strange. Like he can have these adult conversations, with his hockey coaches that I would never be able to have. And it turns out he was a projector, and that's something that projector children are, really known for, as Laura said, of being kind of an old soul or having this wisdom and wanting to be seen for somebody who has this wisdom, even if they're not consciously aware of it. It's just that they see the world in a little bit different way that other people see it.
I had this very specific, isn't it funny the memories that we hold on to throughout life from childhood, few stick, but there's one that after I learned about human design, I went, oh my gosh, that was like, talk about being a projector. I can't have been more than sort of, let's think 7-ish years old, maybe 6. And my mum was in the bathroom putting on her makeup. And I just said to her, I was like, why do you have to wear makeup, mum? And I remember she looked at me and she was like, oh, I think I said, why are you putting on makeup, mum? You're beautiful as you are. And she kind of looked at me and was like, one day you'll understand. But what I meant by that, like the layer above that is like the value, we don't need this. We don't need to beautify and make ourselves pretty and put this other mask on. It's like I saw the inherent worth of a human being, even at that age. Why do that? And I've thought about that a lot since discovering human design, because I see that as one of those moments of just seeing another as they are without the trappings that, often as women now we end up within society. But I wanted to share that example because for anybody listening who does have a projector child, I've thought a lot about my childhood experiences that are layered, as I've said, with the neurodivergence, with also being a projector. And like, that's a heady mix, right, for conditioning. And that's basically what I help people with, right? It's that deconditioning journey, but from far more zoomed out lens than just human design. That's like, let's have a little look back and actually make you realize who you are, this awesome person you are, not, some of the things that you've maybe come away with from the younger years. Yeah.
Thank you. Tammy, did you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to touch on the word precious. Because when I was learning human design, there was this feeling of how can we feel precious, right? And when I think about children and allowing them to feel precious, and with the projector, there is this feeling of being asked a question like what being at instead of just assuming what your children want or asking those yes or no questions and only giving them a few options, making them feel precious by asking their opinion and asking their thoughts on something and letting them finally express what they want to express, because for so many people, it's like they may be too shy to express what they're thinking, or they may feel they're going to get into trouble, or they've been told to talk, that they talk too much, and maybe giving them some time so that they can feel precious. Because I don't know why that word came up, but I felt that was really important when we're talking about self-value and self-worth, is how do we honor our preciousness as children and as adults, and how do we evolve that, and how do we grow that from a beautiful foundation?
That's awesome. Anyone else have anything to add before I move on? You're good? Okay. I wanted to hear some real life examples of how, when you waited for the right recognition or invitation, like how that played out for you for the better, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a really interesting one, actually. It was a couple of years ago. I was working again in a slightly different sales role, mental health and veterinary. And I was actually on a Zoom conversation with somebody that I was essentially selling to or talking to about our services. And the person on the other side of the Zoom call said, we need you. Like, do you work freelance? Do you work for this? Is there any chance that you could do some work for us? And essentially, specifically, that was a specific recognition and invitation to me, because they'd seen who I was just doing my thing. And I felt really seen. This was before I knew about human design. And I felt really seen. I was like, wow, yeah, actually, I can. That's what I do. I'm self-employed. And so I started doing some work for them. And anyway, probably no more than 6 months later, the company that I was working with, that I'd originally been on that call for, folded. The contract ended. I was left without that job. And if it hadn't have been for the invitation that came to me in that call and the work that I was then doing, well, it would have been a lot more stressful. It would have been a whole other dynamic. It was stressful enough, but I've thought about that quite a bit, because it's not just an invitation and how it plays out. There's that divine timing aspect, or like, oh yeah, okay, sometimes the universe knows what it's doing. Let's just keep paying attention. So I think I mentioned earlier in the call, waiting for the right invitations. And that one was a very specific and direct one, which resonated. And so I said yes, again, before I knew about human design. But hey ho, this is, you can't make this stuff up. It really did, save me, catch me, if you like, time in life. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
I have one that's maybe a little bit, I don't know, more abstract, because I tend to think of invitations as like invitations from maybe the universe, or like situational, rather than just like a person acknowledging, hey, do you want to do this for me? Because a couple years ago, I had this thought of like, hey, I want to move across the country. Like, let me look up where and how can I do it, like right now. And nothing was working out. I would have had to pay like thousands of dollars to like break my lease and like go where I wanted to go. But anyway, fast forward, and I think a few months later, I got an email from one of the apartment complexes saying like, hey, we have an opening, like right as my lease was ending. So I saved the money and the time, and I could go into all kinds of details, but I ended up meeting great people and opening myself up to all these different like spiritual, seminars, timings, training, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of that probably wouldn't have unfolded had I, tried to rush it or force it or, not wait for that opening of timing.
Oh, that's awesome, Lindsay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I
Yeah.
live a magical life, I have to say. I'm very, very fortunate. As a projector, we're told often that we have to wait for the invitation, right? For the big things, who you're going to date, where you're going to live, where you're going to work. Um, and I've been a projector my entire life without even knowing it. I have never purchased a house, and yet I own a house. I have never purchased a vehicle, and yet I have a vehicle. I've never applied for a job, and yes, I'm always invited into my jobs. I've never had to buy furniture. I've never had to these little things that, when I put pressure on myself, when I try to do something, it doesn't really work out as magically as if I allow. And so we talk a lot about waiting and what to do in the meantime. For me, now my son is in gate 41, so imagining and being resourceful when you have nothing is really save myself quite a bit, right?
You can
Because
swear, let it fly.
yeah, it's like holding out for the right invitation, holding out for the right next place or the next job. Like as I said before, sometimes I will try to push a product out, a mastermind, a course, whatever. And I'll get results, but not the results that really feel good to me because I had to work really hard for that. And then I will forget that I entered into a bundle or I'm talking on a summit or I was on somebody's podcast, completely forgot about it. No pressure, no expectation, no nothing. And I'll get, people in my world, I'll get new email subscribers, I'll get new people purchasing my stuff without effort, without trying, without putting pressure. And so for what I feel is like now I just hold the vibration of what it is that I want. And I have to really trust it. We've been talking about trusting, letting go and timing, really letting go of the how. This is something that we all talk about a lot, but actually embodying that. And I find that even before I knew I was a projector, I was allowing all those things to happen, but in a place of survival. Now, what happens when I can start using that same information or energy and the way that I manifest in a way of not only surviving but thriving and moving into higher realms of receiving or experiencing life?
Thank you, Tammy. Moni, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I think I would just be echoing a lot of what everyone else
Yes.
has said, so we can just keep going.
Okay.
Stumble into the magic.
You know what? Because I have a group of projectors, what do you all wish that I would ask you? Like, what is something you think the listeners need to know? Shoot me with your wisdom. I'm like, you know what? Screw these questions. You tell me what you think people might need to know, and I want to hear it.
I'm not sure that I know what question, but I do think it is like really imperative just to communicate that everybody's journey. I know we touched on this earlier, but that everybody's human design journey is entirely different. Whether you're a projector, whether you share the same lines, whether you honestly, we even need to remember that it is possible for people to have nearly the same chart. I mean, some of us know the ridiculous nuance that we can get in, but for the sake of the big things, it is possible to have the same chart as somebody. But those two people are never going to be the same because of the lived experience that we have, because of the childhoods we had, the conditioning that we had, this, that. So I just really think it's important to communicate to anybody listening that yes, there are common threads, as no doubt you'll be hearing through this conversation, in being a projector, and there's beauty and there's wisdom to take from it. But there's also even more to be said for honoring your own process, honoring your own feelings. That's the whole point of human design, right? It gives us this beautiful map and reflection and permission slip for who we are, but we have to tune into that ourselves. Because I certainly know when I was really, earlier on in my journey, I wanted to take other people's wisdom and knowledge and make it fit
Mhm.
myself. And sometimes it's all part of the journey. Everything's beautiful, everything is valid in that respect. But I just thought that that would be a important point to communicate for others that are listening to this.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Moni.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, again, like, just important things for projectors to know, like, be really careful who you're around. It's like that old saying, like, you're at like the sum of like the 5 people you hang out with, like that kind of idea. Like that goes like double for projectors because we're, as Ross said, it's like you're eating that other person's energy. We're our aura is focused into them and we're amplifying them. So it's just like if you're around, like if your dad's a really grumbly generator and like he's really annoyed at something, like maybe don't go be near him, or I know my manifesting generator boyfriend, when he's like getting ready for work, like I will feel like I'm supposed to be doing something. He's gonna be mad that I'm not doing something. I should get going. And like, no, like let him go to work, just stay out of like that energy field. And then once he leaves, like I can feel it drop and then settle. And then I could have like a sense of like, okay, what am I doing about my day? And if you are in like a weird agitation place with somebody, it's like you're not gonna make it better by arguing. Like, let's be real, like nothing is ever made better by like duking it out. So like if you feel that energy is getting really funky and you're really amplifying the other person, like just break aura and be like 15, 20 feet away for, 15 minutes or so and kind of just regroup of like, okay, what is me? What is this other person? Because we can feel so agitated with another person's energy. And then I separate from the person. I'm like, oh, this ain't even me. Like they're just going through their thing. And like now I can have more compassion for them and I can have a sense of myself. So like I'd really say be very careful with like who you are around and what state they are in. And like if you're getting overwhelmed, like try to separate. And for me, I'm always gonna try to separate and lay down. Like that's gonna be like my like holy grail of everything. So just be really careful because we really do amplify others a lot. We're very much eating and amplifying their energy and like we can get really sick. Like you don't want to be like the trash compactor. So like have higher standards with the energy that you're allowing yourself to take in because it can get rough.
Well, that is so good, Moni. Actually, I was just asking my daughter, like when I'm in the bedtime routine, like 3 kids, I'm like, okay, got to do this dinner. And it's just a more stressful time. But my generator self is like, let's go, let's do it. Right. When I'm in that state, my daughter's, like, always coming up to me, jumping around, growling at me, just, like, making these weird sounds. I'm like, "What is happening? Like, what is going on with you? Like, you were just great over there in the kitchen." And then I guess because she's, like, feeding into my, "Come on, let's go, let's get it done" energy, and I'm just like, "Are you okay? Why are you only doing that when you're around me? Like, maybe you just need to go in the other room." But I wonder if it's, like, she just doesn't realize that she's tuning into that energy. So that, yeah, made me reflect because I literally said that to her the other day. I'm like, "Can you chill? Like, what's going on with you?"
And she's like, can you chill? Like this is
Yeah,
all you.
you're right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And she has an open emotional solar plexus too. So I'm always like, if you just go in the other room, I'm sure you'll feel better. But she wants to be with mom. She's like, I want to be here. I want to be helping you. I'm like, it's better for the both of us if you just like go over there and I'll be right with you. So what I do now is like, I'll tuck her in. Like she likes being horizontal too, like a really cozy spot with all her squishmallows and everything. I'm like, just go. I'm going to lay a blanket over you and put all your pillows. Just you rest and I'll go do what I'm doing and I'll come back. But yeah, she's like very, her bed is like full of stuffies and like always has the coziest place. She's always building forts and like hiding in it and like coziness. I'm like, this is a vibe. Like, is this the projector vibe?
It could be part of it. And then like if you looked in like if her environment might be caves or something like that, you can go into the deeper nuance of
Yes.
human design to get the specifics. But yeah, like there's definitely projectors separating and just who the hell are we? Because like we are amplifying everybody. And if it's a busy room, it's like you can feel like you're like a pinball, like just bouncing around everybody. So that's the other thing is like I really try to stay on the parameters of rooms
Mhm.
because otherwise it's just like who as energy am I in? And it just like hyper over amplified pinball style. So like, yeah, getting off to the side, being in your own energy for 10, 15 minutes, lay down and discharge some of that sacral because like, oh, none of this is me. Like,
Wow. I love
Yes.
that. I'm shores. My environment is shores. And I know we don't want to get too deep into that, but and I'm also on the roof, right? As a 6'1", I'm 47. I'm still on the roof. So I'm really in the observation stage of my life right now. And so being on the shores and observing, the one thing that I, love to share with everybody is be a screen and not a sponge, right? Like we have a choice, right? And it comes through awareness, it comes through acceptance. And as this is, of course, something that children don't really understand yet, right? Because they're still very much in reactive mode. But as adults, we get to choose whether or not we react, right? If we can understand our energy. And the other thing is not all conditioning is bad, right? We tend to talk a lot about deconditioning and all this kind of stuff, but there's when we can start finding the golden nuggets, the pearls of wisdom that we got from the lessons and the conditioning and the trials and tribulations that we've gone through, and really find the gifts of that conditioning, right? Like I'm so grateful that I learned that I was dyslexic and I gave up on being an accountant and I moved into the service industry, and then coming back into being an entrepreneur now and teaching people how to be accountable for their energy, maybe not their financial resources, but their energetic resources. So, coming full circle and seeing the lessons from all of the shit storms of life that I went through, and finding that. So not throwing everything away. Oh, now that because that's what I did when I first found out as a projector. I threw everything out. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Right. And coming from a victim state, which is a lot, which, a lot of people, when they go into human design, they're coming in as a victim where they're trying to come into that state, or they're in that state and they're trying to rationalize, oh, this is why this happened, or, oh, this is why that happened, instead of finding, the nuggets and the truth and the wisdom from those. And so not throwing that all away, and then really understanding yourself enough to not react, but to be that filter and then decide to choose what you want to do with it.
Mm. Thank you, Tammy. Anyone else have anything to add? Anything that you think a projector should know, needs to know?
I was just gonna say, I know Moni talked a lot about like who you let affect you, but I think allowing yourself to really understand like who you want to affect as well, like who you want to pour into, because not everybody wants to hear it. To be honest, like we all feel like we have this insight, and that's great and everything, but you have to be careful. Like not everybody wants to hear it all the time. So, and I know like my readings have given me context, luckily, for people that do want insight and opinions and things like that from me. But, and I just also wanted to make the point too that like, I feel like at least for me, and maybe somebody else can give a different perspective, but like giving the wisdom or like the teachings or whatever you want to call it, the output, isn't necessarily to be right. It's more so to like put something out there like, hey, like, what are you trying to achieve? How can I help you do that? And start conversations rather than like, here's what I have to say, like, take it for what it is and like the end, if that makes sense.
yeah, I love that you just said all that because, yes, of like, yeah, not everyone wants your insight projector. It's definitely like saying that to myself more than anything. And it's realizing our impact and our effect on other people. Because for us, it's just like, what do you mean? Like, this is just literally in front of me. Like, I could just see these things about a person, but like, we are like peering into their soul. Like, for us, it just seems like it's like your hand in front of your face, but really recognizing it's like we're really peering into people, and it could be super, super uncomfortable. So definitely being careful, and like that's why it's like let people invite you in, because it's like, who the hell do you think you are, like peering into my stuff? And you can really agitate people. And another really fun example that you totally like set off in my brain. My best friend is a manifesting generator, and her boyfriend is like a splenic projector. And so it's been fun, like telling them things about themselves. And she like called me freaking out one day. She's like, Moni, it happened. She was hanging out, they're like cooking dinner, they're doing whatever. And the boyfriend is like telling her about something that they were talking about. And she's like, it literally sounded like gibberish. She's like, wait, can you say it again? And again, it sounded like gibberish. And it was like, oh, her aura was not ready to receive what he was saying. Even mentally, she's like, I love you and I want to hear everything you tell me because you're my special projector. Like oracally, her being could not receive this information, and it literally sounded like unintelligible gibberish.
Wow.
So it's like also not taking it personally when somebody cannot hear our wisdom, because it's literally like they're not ready. Their aura is not ready to hear it. They need to learn some other stuff. They got other stuff going on, whatever it might be. So it's like really learning to not take things personally as a projector, while also realizing we have a huge personal effect on other people. So be careful with like who you're peering into and what you're telling them, and just like do you and let them pull you in. It'll be better for everyone.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. And well said too.
Oh, thank you. You said it all off, so thank you.
I love this. I think my mom, looking up her chart, that she's a projector and I'm a third line too. And she'd always be like, do this and you need to be doing it this way. And just hated it so much because she had, okay, let's call it like it is. She's got all this wisdom. She could probably see where I'm going to like fall flat on my face. But also my third line's like, I got to do it anyway. So she'd be going on and on about like, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And I'm like, I can't hear this anymore. And she's probably like, yeah, peering into my soul, and like she can see the potential, the big picture. And I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to. Nope, not happening.
Third line's got to fall on its own face.
Right. I was so happy when I learned I was a third line because, yeah, I said this in another example in the recording where it's like when you read a business coach, let's say, is saying like, don't do it this way, do it that way. I'm like, I kind of want to do it that way to see if you're right or not. And like, I'm like, okay, chill, third line. Like, you're going to probably waste a lot of time doing that. But like, that's literally what goes through my mind. I'm like, well, kind of want to see myself.
I got to know how it doesn't work.
That's it. Yes, exactly. The third line.
Now
Gotta know how
not to do it that way.
Right. Oh yeah. And you're a 3-5 too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you get it. The third
I've
line.
absorbed, I've totally like taken on the mantra of like, now I know not to do it that way. Because it's like, I'm gonna learn all the way that something's gonna break and it's not gonna work out. So instead of blaming myself for not being so perfect, it's like, now I know that's not the way to do that.
Yeah. Let's move on and not judge myself about it.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I have messed up, but I'm owning it. Love it. Okay, let's do one more question. How has learning to embody your human design type, so as a projector, how has learning to embody being a projector influenced your confidence and showing up for life and work?
Oh yeah, definitely like waiting for something that's worthwhile enough is like, especially as an ego projector, because we're just complete oddballs here. Because it really is like, am I getting more out of it than I'm putting in? Because I know I'm going to improve whatever I'm going to go into. Like, I know I bring that energy, and getting a lot better at not only waiting for the invitation, because that's like step one projector, wait for the invitation. But step two is just like, as an ego projector, is like, is this worth my while? You know, like if I'm getting some last minute afterthought invitation and I could just taste that bitterness, right? Like as a projector, are you tasting success and sweetness or bitterness? Right? Which one are you getting? And so I got this like last minute invitation. I was like so like annoyed and bitter. I'm like, this is a last minute thing you're telling me like the day before. And I was like, cool, I'm just not even gonna go. Whereas previously as a projector with like low self-worth and you're not invited and you are rejected from things, you could kind of jump into like every invitation. It's like I would have like bought a ticket, go paid like $40 to park downtown for a weird time. And then you hear as a weird thing. And I did none of that because this invitation just tasted horrible. And then like 2 hours later, I get another invitation for something way better. So it's just like that thing of like, don't accept the crappy invitation that tastes bad just because it's your friend, and like, like have that sense of like, if it doesn't taste good as a projector, if it doesn't taste sweet and lovely and successful and happy and bubbly, of just like, it ain't for you. So like waiting for the invitation and waiting for the good invitation, and one that is going to be appropriate for your authority, whatever that is, right? If it's splenic, it's in the moment. If it's, solar plexus, wait out that wave. As an ego projector, it's like, am I getting more out than I'm putting in? And if not, it ain't worth it. And you'll find that like, if you say no to the bad invitation, a better one will inevitably come.
Thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's such a powerful question because in essence, like it's been everything. The phrase that comes up quite a lot, and I think especially with projectors, but a lot in general in human design, is that it's this big fat permission slip to be yourself. And I always had, like, just again, as a practical example, like I have journals from like 15 years ago where I'm like, these writings where I'm like, I knew back then that I was here to help people with my lived experiences, like with them. But I was like shoving that down, not listening to it. And, here we are years later discovering human design, being like, oh, I'm here to be a guide. Would you look at that? So sometimes, we need something external to ourselves in order to give us that confidence, whether it's the self-worth, self-value, whatever it is, to step into the fullness of that expression. And that's the word you used is confidence. That's what that is. And that's what human design has given me. It's given me the permission to go, oh, so that intuition, which I was struggling to get in touch with, was correct. Now let me listen to that more and let's go forward from here. And I think with, back to the self-worth piece, being ADHD, carrying those kinds of limiting beliefs, self-belief, etc., it's just been such a powerful tool to move away from I'm not enough, who am I to do this, into, oh no, wait, I am, and let's fucking go.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's fucking go.
I love it. Anyone else? Yeah, Tammy.
For me, it's like, we say as projectors, follow your bliss. But if you don't know what bliss feels like, or you don't know what brings you bliss, you're gonna be spinning your wheels. It took me a long time to understand what bliss felt like and what bliss actually meant. And bliss, of course, feels differently for everybody. And so I was chasing bliss in, trying to figure out, and I started doing it from a mental perspective instead of listening. And so for a projector, I really think it's so important that we listen to our bodies and listen to our internal wisdom versus what everyone else is telling us, and just redefine like what bliss feels like to us and what that means to us, and how can we be in that state a lot longer than we know what to do with it, right? Like generally we schedule in our a foot massage, or we schedule in these things because we're so conditioned to be in this vibration of time where time doesn't really exist. And so it's like, how can I be in this blissful state longer and longer and longer? And how can I live from this blissful state, which is really being out of your head and really internally, like for me anyway, is like when I actually listen to my body, when I can start feeling my body and I can feel the subtle shifts and I can feel the stories dissolving and getting out of my head and being in that state for longer and longer and longer. Like I try for 4 hours a day. And even though I don't want to put a time limit on it, but trying to be in that blissful state longer and longer and longer every single day.
Hmm. Love it. Anyone else?
I think for me, it's just been a matter of being able to find comfort in being different or feeling different. Because I think there's been things in life that I look at or like I see other people have, and I'm like, I want to be that. I want to have that. I want to do that. But learning about your energy type, especially the projector energy type, where I feel like mine is very finite. Again, like someone said earlier, like the charts are very nuanced and differences, but it's very finite, and knowing that like how I might get to where I'm going might look different than someone else is really comforting, or has been really comforting for me.
Yes. Oh, that's lovely. I want to thank you all so much for your time, your energy, just being here and sharing your wisdom with everybody. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.